Well, welcome to part 3 of week 9 of cis204, Unix shell scripting and utilities, and this week we're dealing with sed. And just a moment ago, if you're jumping right through these things, you notice that we discussed the data file and the fact that when the CD in the back of the book, the Unix Shells by Example book, its data file was formatted for Microsoft. It had a carriage return and an end of line. So we had to get rid of that so that we could use it in the Unix environment. And I say, I teasingly say that I'm not fond of Microsoft, but in the grand scheme of things, so Mac does it one way, Microsoft does it another, Unix does it a third way. And the same thing can be said inside the commands, because we looked at a sed command and I tried using a question mark to substitute for a single character, just like I would in the command line, and it didn't do anything. I had to use a dot. So, yeah, I can rail on about Microsoft all I want, but it's just another quirk that has to be worked around. Unix has more than its fair share of quirks that you have to learn and you have to work around. And unfortunately, a lot of these things, because they needed to use as few keystrokes as possible, given the quality of the keyboards they were using, they use really tiny command names with really small options, and you have to memorize the meta characters, and the meta characters change meaning from one command to the other. So yeah, it's a pain in the rear end. The only way you get good at it is to practice it. These examples in the book are wonderful. They work well. Yes, at some point you may have to go in and edit the file, and you can kind of put this thing on the back burner and say, if I have to remember how to do this, maybe what I need to do is go out and do a search on how to get rid of carriage control characters in Microsoft file for Unix. And a search will find it. It's real easy. There's a ton of information available these days. Now, let's move on to part 3. We'll get rid of this cheesy camera and we'll go from here and maybe have some fun. Maybe not, but hey, we can try. So let's go back to this data file again. So I'm going to clean this up. Hey, I've got all these extra data files out there. So let me try this. I'm going to look for this Hemingway, not Hemming, Hemingway, and I want to change it for Jones. Miss Hemingway was married. She changed her name to Jones. So what am I going to do? I'm going to issue the streamline editor. I want it to do quiet, the -n. I want to substitute anytime you find Hemingway with a Jones, and do it globally. If you find Hemingway more than once on a line, substitute all occurrences. And then print, because I told you don't print everything. Now I want you to print where you're actually changing. There it is, southeast. So wait a minute. Let's do this. Let's grep southeast from data file. What was that? Now that was Patricia Hemingway. So that worked. That did exactly what we expected it to. However, notice what it did. If we go in and VI this file again, and we set list, it's going to show the tabs. Notice, I have 2 tabs here, Dalsas. I have 2 tabs here, Gray. I have 2 tabs here with main. With Hemingway, I only have a single tab. So what does that mean? That means Hemingway has a single tab. That line is formatted correctly. Let's take a look at this again. Let's get rid of the print, and let's get rid of this suppress output. Notice what happens. Patricia Jones because it does not have the second tab, the formatting is thrown off. So that's a little fun thing you've got going on with Hemingway. The -n suppresses output of the whole file. The P within the pattern prints the impacted lines. The G replaces globally throughout the line. Well, let's look at this thing. The second example here. Let's get this going. Do a Control L. So what's going to happen here? Would you believe, besides suppressing the output, it's going to look for Margo, but it's going to put Mar into a buffer. And this buffer is going to be buffer 1. So substitute Margo with Marianne. How does that work? Well, I escape the parentheses. I type the characters I want to put in my holding buffer. I escape the closed parentheses. I print the rest of the information needed to match with. And then, after the delimiter, I want to substitute what I put in my hold buffer, in this case Mar, and add an EAN at the end of it. So what's going to happen? North Marianne Weber. Really? Let me do this. grep -I Margo data file. There it is. Margo Weber. That's what we saw above. This time it took the Mar, put it in a buffer, found the Margo, and replaced it with a Mar EAN. So there's Marianne Weber. Works. Heck of a deal. Now, what happens if I do this? VI data file. So let's find that Margo Weber, right? Okay. Going to YYP. We're going to change Margo back, change word, MAR. Okay, Mar Weber, right? Actually, let's change it to Mark Weber. Cool. Hey, no. Hey, Mark Weber. Like that name. Wonder why. Let's take a look here. Oh, wasn't there a Mark Weber, director? Okay, heck of a deal. Anyhow, so we've changed it to Mark Weber. Let's run that set again. What's it going to get? Still going to get that. Why didn't it match Mark? It matched the MAR, but Mark is not Margo. How can I make that work? Well, would you believe? If I do this, what did it do? It messed everything up. So let's come back here and let's try this again. Yep, it changed everything. Isn't this special? This is one of the fun things you've got to learn about SED. There it is. Marianne Weber, Mariango Weber. Okay, so what did it do? It found the Mar and it put the IANNE in there, but it also continued to place the rest of the name at the end of that. So all it did was inserted the IANN after the Mar on both of those lines. So let me get through here and let's VI data file again. So you're going to have some fun with this. This can be kind of entertaining when you get right down to it and play with the various things that can be done. So that works. Now, what if you wanted to append an LA in front of Margo? Well, let's try this. So what does this do? This is a set, again, suppress the print, substitute, find Margot, put that in a buffer, and then put LA space and the output of the buffer and print that. And why didn't that work? Quite simply, as you can see, there's an unmatched parentheses or escape parentheses. There it is, La Margot Weber. So again, one of the things you're going to see is you're going to find that careful attention has to be paid to whether or not your sequences match. If you've got a escape open paren, you better have an escape close paren. And the good thing is sed at least gives you enough of an error message to tell you what character it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There is the 19th character right here. Yeah, if I can mark that. It says the -e expression number 1 character 19 is an unmatched parentheses or escape parentheses. And that's what it is. It's unmatched from here. So now I fix that. It worked. Okay. Heck of a deal. How do I change the space delimiter pattern? Well, would you believe? One of the ways to do that is to escape the delimiter that you're going to use. But the other fun way to do that is if you're going to substitute, all you have to do is give it another character. S, whatever character you want. It reads the S and knows it's going to substitute, but the command, the way the command works is if it sees an S, it's a command for sed. It knows the next character has to be the delimiter. So whatever character you want to put into it, it's going to use that character as the delimiter. There it is. There's 88. Every time it found a 3, it put an 88 in there. Heck of a deal. Now, could I have changed that? I mean, how did that work? Let's do this. Let's put a splat in there. Oh no, splat? That's a reserved character, isn't it? Not really. There you go. It works. Okay. Again, sed it has some options that are just, it's an amazing tool. It can be a lot of fun to use this tool. So how about let's match a range of selected lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that data file and I'm going to look for west through east. Okay. So what should I get? Anytime anything in between the west and the east, I want you to print. But first, let's look at the file. Let's do this. Here we go. So it's going to look for west through east. What is it going to do? Let's see here. Let's paste this back in here and see what happens. So my prediction, it's going to find the west at the beginning and it's going to hit the east. Will it find northwest or will it find western? It will find northwest and it will wander all the way down to southeast. Now, let's try this. Try this at the beginning and this at the beginning. Just a bit different, eh? Okay. So let's try this one. Let's do a Control L. Place that in there. I'm going to go, I want to print line 5 through whatever line has northeast in it. So line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's southeast. Go print the next line, and then I found northeast, and I will print that line, and I quit. So I don't see north or central. I don't see northwest. I don't see western. I don't see southwest. I don't see southern, because I'm going to line 5, which is southeast. Heck of a deal. Now, this will work. Even though I said it's not. So, find the first west, find the next, and then find an east, and substitute the end of the line with vk. There it is. So it found northwest, it found western, it found southwest, it found southern, and then it quit when it found the southeast. It finished with the southeast. Worked like a champ. Now, what if I do this? Find the east at the beginning of the line, and find the west at the beginning of the line. There it is. Works like a charm. Okay. So, multiple edits. The -E allows you to do multiple things inside the file. If I do this, I can do this sed-E, delete the first 3 lines, substitute Hemingway for Jones. There it is, Patricia Jones. Didn't print the first 3 lines, did it? Works like a champ. Again, let's try this. Well, and this is to fix the silliness with the tab. So I'm going to substitute Jones, and I'm going to insert a tab in there. Now I cleaned up that nastiness. So those caret eyes are the tabs in the file. So what's this thing? Well, in this case, I want to find holy moly. Well, let's take a look at this new file. Oh, it's Swan has left the company. So what did this do? Let's run this again. So basically it said, hey, when you find Swan, read the new file. And do this for the file data file. So what it did is it found Swan, read the new file, and continued to place the text in the standard out. Let's try this. Okay. Now what's going to happen here? Find north and stick that in a file called myfile. Well, let's see if myfile exists. Yep. Let's take a look at what's in myfile. So let me rm myfile, right? Okay, got rid of that. Let's see what we've got. Myfile is gone. Let's copy this, and we'll paste it. Now, more myfile, right? There they are. Cool. So it wrote to a file inside the sed command. So, how about placing text above or below the current line? Let's do this. Let's paste that in there, give it a space, and then we'll place this in there. Well, that certainly didn't do what I wanted it to do, did it? So let's try this again. Let's do it the way it was written, because what's happening here is I'm telling it to give me the secondary prompt, right? Okay. So that's the append. and this is appended, and it still didn't do what I wanted it to do. Okay, well, we'll come back to that here in a bit. Doesn't work. Try the escape with the space. Let's try this. Okay, so we are going to make this work. How did I do that? Escape the space. There it is. Fun stuff, fun stuff, fun stuff. So the I command inserts text above the current line. So we've got this Eastern I, and we can do that, but I'm not going to at the moment. The C command allows SED to modify text with the new text. So if I do this, I'm basically looking for the Eastern in the region, right? Let's take a look at this data file. There's Eastern. Clean that up, do this, and we'll go ahead and stick this line in. There it is. The Eastern region is closed. Eastern used to have this TB Savage, but what did it do? It substituted that whole Eastern region is closed in for whenever it found Eastern. So the next command causes SED to get the next line in the file. It has some special wrapping. So this is the SED Eastern. And basically it's going to look for find Eastern, and on the next line substitute Archie for AM. So where's AM? Well, it's going to find Eastern, right, which is here, and then on the next line it's going to look for the AM and substitute that with Archie. Does it work? Sure does. Okay, there's an easier way to do that, but we're going to show it to you here in just a second. So the transform command. The Y command will transform. For instance, it will change the form to something else. So here I've got this. I'm going to do this silly command. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to have to add this to the end of it. So what's going to happen here? Well, it's going to look kind of strange. What it did is every lowercase character, it changed in the first 3 lines the lowercase characters to uppercase characters that had no bearing on reality. So there's another command, the quit command. Causes SED to exit after a specified pattern. So if it finds Lewis, it's going to substitute Joseph for Lewis, and then it's going to quit. So here's another way. Format's key. It doesn't work. So look at how the format is laid out. This is inside the braces, the curly braces. So make sure that that's done correctly. Holding and getting. In this case, we're going to grab northeast and we're going to hold it, and then we're going to get it and print. So how does this work? Find northeast, hold it, and then output the hold buffer. Northeast, right? So found northeast, found everything, and then printed it. What if I do this? -N. Didn't do what I expected it to do, did it? But what did this do? Remember, we have 9 lines. If I go back, the Control C. If I go back to the end of the line here, word count -L, it's 10 lines. And that's because it took this hold buffer, it found northeast, put it in the hold buffer, found it, and then printed it at the end. Okay. So let's try this. So look for WE, put it in the hold, so what happened here? Remember Sharon Gray? That was the WE. Well, it put that in the hold and then deleted the line. In other words, we didn't see Western. Then at the end, it's going to see Connecticut, the central CT, and it's going to put CT, central Connecticut. It's going to put the line WE after it. So it's going to find WE, put it in the hold buffer, and then not print it. So it doesn't get printed twice. It only gets printed once. But with that, what I've done is I've substituted, I pulled it out, basically deleted it from printing, kept it from printing, and then at the end, I've asked it to output the buffer after it reaches that CT. Cool. So more holding and getting. So what does this little g in here do? So I'm looking for northeast. I'm going to put it into the hold, and I'm going to use the little g, not the big G, but the little g. So what's going to happen? Northeast, it throws it at the end. What this did is the first segment found northeast and placed that line in the holding buffer. The second segment went to the last line, $, and overwrote the current line with the content of the holding buffer. Wait a minute. It overwrote the current line with the content of the holding buffer? Sure. More data file. Remember, that used to be central. Central's gone. Okay. So, what about this one? Here we get more fun. What happened? Well, it found the WE, it deleted it, and then it put it at the end, overwrote the CT line. How many lines are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first segment places the line containing WE in the holding buffer. Then it deletes the line from standard out. The second segment finds the line containing CT and overwrites it with the content of the holding buffer. How can we append the contents of the holding buffer after the line containing CT? Well, capital G. So what about this? Holding and exchanging. Cool. Okay, so go find Patricia, right? Put that in hold and then exchange that whole Margot Weber line is gone. It got exchanged with the line that had Patricia in it. Okay. So what about this? Now I'm going to look for Margot, right? And I'm going to exchange Patricia with it. Didn't work. It basically threw away the Patricia line, but Margot didn't get found in time to be substituted. It didn't go in. So where it sits in the file is important. So there's a couple of examples that we will work in class. If I do a sed-f setting, this setting file, basically, let me do this, Control L, more setting, right? So this is a sed script. Basically, I can build scripts for sed. This -f tells me which file to run. So we can do that. So in other words, and at some point we'll need to fix this setting too, but we'll go from there. So that's it for week 9, and we'll get to more of this later. But SED is an interesting and fun tool to use. It's really powerful when you get into all the little variants of it. It's fairly straightforward. The big bits and pieces of it can be used and used well frequently, but the more you know about it and the more you find the little nuances of the tool, you can manipulate files like there's no tomorrow with SED. So there will be a test, of course, but at this point, this ends week 9 of Unix shell scripting and utilities.